Heyo, what is going on, everybody? A very special day. We got a very special man with us. The one, oh, I like that. You got a little, it's the one, it's the only, it's Kenny King.
Got a little classical music in there.
I love it.
like
I love
the
it.
vibes.
I had this going originally, but I effed up and hit two buttons like a clown. I thought this was a little, I was like, I'm going to
That was a little bit more eerie. I'm down with the classic.
Coming at you
It's
live.
almost like Halloween.
Yeah.
Impact Wrestling star Kenny King.
Sir.
And thank you for joining us so much, Kenny. It was a pleasure seeing you in Atlanta this past week or two. Time flies. It's been like, I don't even know how many weeks.
Couple weeks, yeah.
It's been a couple for sure.
But I gotta say, man, I have been watching you forever, it feels like. I don't know if everyone knows where you originated from, but I do. You actually you originated from like USF, FSU. You were gonna play football, correct? You were going originally, and that was your main goal. But then you were in WWE Tough Enough Season 2. And how old were you when you actually did that?
I was 20 when we shot that.
20 years old. And there was all kinds of people on there that had all kinds of talent. And I remember the season very vividly. And it basically opened the door for you to become a professional wrestler. What was the next step from that? Because Tough Enough, only guaranteed the contract to the one person. And then everyone else, did they sign you after that? Or did you go on your way and say, I'm going to do my own thing?
No, so Al being my trainer was like, I want you to train because you only learn, it seems like you get a whole lot, but you don't really get a lot as far as like how to really become a wrestler on Tough Enough. You get to like the bare bones basics. And so what I had noticed was, especially after the first Tough Enough, there was a lot of some of those contestants going out and they hadn't trained and they hadn't really done anything to enhance their skills. So they were going and really like having terrible matches and getting booed out of buildings and whatnot. So I didn't want to do that. So I trained. So there was like a local place in Vegas that I trained for a year actually before I took any bookings because I didn't want to be the guy from Tough Enough that couldn't wrestle because that just ain't it. So so that was really the path for me after that, was just kind of go out and get some experience.
I mean, or you grew up in Orlando or South Florida originally. What made you decide Vegas? Was that something you had always wanted to do, or because Vegas seems to be a place that you like very much, correct?
At sometimes sometimes I've been here a long time. So originally I was at school at USF, and my parents were in Vegas. I was playing football there, and I wasn't happy. There's a whole lot of reasons for that, but my dad was like, "Hey man, why don't you come out to play football at UNLV?" And I was like, "No, they suck. Like I'm not happy here, but I'd be really miserable if I went out there and got beat every week." And my dad did what dads do, which was he kind of didn't listen to me, and he took one of my highlight tapes and he actually went to the school and put it on the defensive coordinator's desk, a guy named Mike Bradison. And I got a call from Coach Brad like a couple days later. And then I was like, all right, well, maybe UNLV sounds like a good spot. And that's how I ended up out here in August of 2001.
Now your current you had a question, Jay?
I just had a quick question since we were talking about Tough Enough. Yeah. So how much do you credit the training you received from WWE's Tough Enough influencing the rest of your career? Because you're saying it wasn't as much. So I just wanted to know, like, do you credit them at all for some of the training, or did you just were like, no, this is
well, no, I mean, it was a solid foundation, right? Like I was trained by like Al Snow, Bob Holly,
Chavez. Okay, Chavez.
I agree. So it was a very solid foundation of the basics of pro wrestling. But I couldn't say that, and I don't think they would either say that I was ready to go out there and be a professional wrestler with what I picked up from Tough Enough. I could probably
fundamentals basically
fight my way through a couple of matches, but it was the training that I did afterward and the experience and kind of getting comfortable that built on that foundation.
Those are some big names. So yeah,
huge names. And then I'll do you one better. And then I came to Vegas, and then I got trained in part by Scott Casey and Nick Bockwinkel. So my
legendary
Nick reads like who's list for sure.
Now you've been messing around with Impact for, forever. I think your first stint with TNA was what, 2005. I actually worked there as well as a peon, and I did my college internship there around that same time. It was a wild time at TNA. There was a lot of freedom going on, a lot of opportunity to be had. You've made 3 or 4 appearances now in Impact Wrestling coming back. It seems to be your home away from home, and at the end of the day, that's where you are now, battling with that evil bastard Joe Hendry. Oh my God. His music too is so annoying. We're not even going to get to that. We might get to the Bachelor in a minute, but we're not going to get to the whole. We're not even going to use the word.
I appreciate. Thank you, Niko.
I was offended, bro. I really was. I was offended by his music, and I didn't like it at all. But he is entertaining nevertheless, and I'm sure you'll get the better hand for him at the end of the day. Now, all your time in Impact / TNA wrestling, what would you say is your best accomplishment and your most proudest moment?
So this would be my third spot, just to answer the question.
I knew it was 3 or 4, yeah.
To go around, yeah. And I guess I really hadn't thought about it.
Beatdown Clan.
Well, that's where I was going.
But
I mean, it has become kind of like my home away from home. It's a place. I mean, I'm very, very thankful and grateful to Impact and Scott D'Amore for kind of throwing us a life preserver out when the Ring of Honor ship was sinking, and it was a very it was a difficult and kind of it was a crazy time. So but to answer your question, it's 2 things, right? I'm a very big ECW fan, like old school ECW fan. So coming up, watching that, like Dudley's and Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lane, those 2 specifically were like those were like Superman, those guys. So getting the opportunity to beat Rob for the X Division title, my first go around, that was like one of the things that 14-year-old Kenny still like it's like about.
Amazing. Yeah, I remember it too.
But then other than that, man, like the whole Beatdown Clan thing, we always laugh about it, when we talk about it between us, because it's just it had so much potential, and it really could have went so crazy, and for the time that it did go, for people to still remember it so fondly, and it was just us. It was getting to work with my friends and just have a good time and portray our relationship through pro wrestling, and that's. It was so much. It was so much fun. And it's like such a good part of my wrestling career.
Out of all your matches, which one would you say taught you the most, business wise, preparation wise?
That's an interesting question. I think that I wouldn't say
you got to take a guess today.
I wouldn't say one match, but I'd say that I had a best of 3 series with Jay Lethal and Ring of Honor that I felt like
he taught you.
It established what people already knew, is that like on the main event Kenny, like I can go with anybody, like I'm in that tier with guys like Lethal. So that I feel like it didn't teach me as much as it kind of like showed me what I already knew, and allowed me to show what a lot of people already knew.
Mike, you have a question? I saw you over there.
Yeah. I was just going to say, didn't want to leave the Beatdown Clan right away. Like Niko said, we've been big Impact fans for years, going to Universal. I mean, that was so exciting with MVP, with Lashley, Samoa Joe, Low Key, everybody that was there. And then when we saw the Hurt Business on the other promotion, we're like going, we saw this already, and we were thinking about how good that was. And kind of a fantasy booking to see you with like a reincarnate. They keep talking about bringing the Hurt Business back again, right? MVP doing things. And how exciting would that be to have like a either a Hurt Business or another Beatdown Clan or another faction, because you were so good at it? Has there been anything that you've been thinking about at Impact doing another type of faction?
There are people that in my mentions all the time about, bring the Beatdown Clan back with XYZ, and that's a thing that like that's such a special gathering of dudes.
Yeah.
It would have to be as impactful of a gathering or different, or something completely different. Like you can't use beatdown clan and not have it be like the murderers row of dudes. And that, which brings me to the Hurt Business. Like that was, I mean, that for me, that was I was nothing but proud and like happy to see like that was the evolution of what we had started and where we were eventually probably had ended up anyway. And that was just the polished, dialed up WWE version. But I mean, it was so good. It was so powerful. It really held the company down during the pandemic. And it was really a thing that I feel like even the Hurt Business was gone too soon, So if they do end up bringing it back, MVP and I talk all the time. It's all of this stuff is it's wrestling. You don't believe it until you see it. So, but I'd love for them to get another run and bring in a dude like Carmelo Hayes, who's perfect.
Right.
For it, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, it's I'm just happy to see those guys get a good run and know that that's linked to what we started or what we were trying to do.
Now, Ring of Honor has been really important to you. You've been there several times as well. I think you spent 5 to 7 years at one point in time there. How do you feel? Obviously, I'm sure they reached out to you with the new repackaged ROH by Tony Khan and all that. How do you feel they've displayed the new Ring of Honor compared to the traditional Ring of Honor that you're used to being a part of?
I think it's a reimagining. I don't know if you can get that back, that lightning in a bottle that was Ring of Honor.
Very special at one point in time, right?
Because the truth of the matter is a lot of that magic that made Ring of Honor is what makes AEW AEW. So you have a lot of that influence, a lot of that rub. So it's an interesting product. Like I'm happy to see my boys over there doing their thing. I mean, I'm happy to see, if anybody deserves to be Ring of Honor World Champion, is Claudio Castagnoli, man, and that is a great place for him to lead. So I'd like to see, give it some more time and see kind of how it pans out and see, what it ends up being, because it's still trying to find its identity. As far as what it looks like to me, it's still trying to figure out, okay, what does this new Ring of Honor want to be? What does it want to look like? So I wish those guys nothing but the best of luck.
Your last stint there, what made you depart from Ring of Honor? Was it the contracts? More so, where'd you want to go?
It was the fact that the company
Pandemic.
Was it the ending? Was it at the end? Were you there till the end, all the way till the last?
Yeah. Me and Shane
but
short final battle.
Pandemic crushed it.
There was one right before that too when you left Ring of Honor, right? Or
Yeah. So that was when I left Ring of Honor in 2012 to go to Impact. And that was a smooth business move. Just to kind of touch on it, like it was just one of those things where I had always felt like I wanted to explore my options, and was very communicated that, and it was just it was business, man, and business is business, and it was one of those things where it was, again, and I'm not going to even get into it or mention his name, but it was only one person who ever had an issue with me leaving Ring of Honor in 2012, and that person was rather irrelevant and couldn't go back, and I was able to go back. So the whole Ring of Honor, like I always felt like Ring of Honor was my home. That was like really my family, and it was unfortunate what happened, but it's it is good to see that there is still some kind of motion involving Ring of Honor.
Let me switch gears for a second here. My wife loves a show called The Bachelor. We were watching it one day, and lo and behold, I yell out loud, "Oh my God, that's Kenny King!" And she's looking at me like I'm crazy, and she's like, "Well," I'm like, "This dude, he's from Orlando. He's a wrestler, blah blah blah." And sure enough, I was like, "Kenny Orlando," and I was like, "That's definitely him." And my wife was like, "This is crazy! Like that, the wrestlers are transitioning into something like The Bachelor. Where did that come from? Was that an invitation you received? Did you apply for that? And how did that change your life? Because that's a show that gets 10, 20 million viewers. I mean, it's something a whole different level than what Impact or even Raw or SmackDown is getting at this point in time. Did it really kind of change like your exposure in the world of social media and life?
Yeah, even to this day, I still can't tell you how it happened. I got a phone call one day, And it was, and you know, pro wrestling. Anytime you get a phone call with an opportunity, that was one of the things back in the day. People would call and say, "Hey, Kenny, this is Vince," and you know, so
Yeah.
that's how you get ripped. You know, somebody would call you with a great opportunity, and then you think you got a good opportunity until you're waiting for that plane ticket. So anyway, I got a phone call. By somebody, hey, this is XYZ from ABC. Would you ever think about doing like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette? And you know, me thinking this is a rib or whatever. I'm just like, you do know I'm black, right? And there was a pause, and then he was like, yeah, I'm looking at a picture. He was like, oh shit, this is serious, this is real. All right. So and so that kind of was one of those things. Like I'd never even seen an episode of The Bachelor. I'd call my mom when it became real. I called my mom, was like, hey, could you watch like 3-4 episodes of The Bachelorette just to make sure I'm not making a mistake? And she called me back and was like, yeah, you're crazy, but go ahead and do it. Like it'd probably be great exposure. And it really was, man. I didn't know that like the Bachelor world is, and people of the Bachelor franchise are just as passionate, if not more, than a wrestling fan base. You know, and that was a crazy thing, because I was a single dad, and so at that point, you know, I had my daughter on the show. So one of the things that was kind of took some getting used to was, you know, people would randomly just start walking up and start talking to my kid in the stores, and I'm like, you know, that me being a crazy papa bear, I'm like, I'm not paying attention. I'm like, what was this person talking to my kid? And realizing that I did that to her, I opened her up to all of this. So. But people are even now. I was in the airport with Chris, Chris Bay, and Jay Vidal. We were waiting, and this lady comes over, and she's got like literally roses all over her, like all over her stuff. And she just, I just love you so. And she just sits down and just starts talking, like didn't even introduce herself. And you know, that. So I have a whole lot of people now who, you know, treat me like they know me because they saw me on TV. But it was an amazing experience, and you know, it was definitely very positive.
Did you go on for love, or was it for exposure? Because I feel like it's rarely for love on that show.
Look, I say it like this: if I was open to the opportunity, was I going on there to be like, oh man, this girl, I'm gonna fall in love with this girl? No, but I said, listen, if it is going to be this girl, then I'm open. Like, this is a crazy situation, and I'm open to it. So you know, no matter what happens, I'm open to the opportunity. If it does happen, if not, then no big deal.
I'm there for the exposure. Once I see her make out with 10, 15, 20,
but you don't see that though.
I'm
right?
clocked out, man. I'm clocked out.
You don't see it. You got to pretend like it's not happening.
Right,
you don't
right.
It's a show.
There's always that one guy that's like, she's making out with someone right now, bro.
Yeah.
You're like, shut up.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, you're an athlete, dancer, actor, still performing at a high level. What would you say your calling is? Is it wrestling?
Entertainment. You know, in one way, shape, or form. I mean, wrestling was
you can do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? So it's like, would you say that?
It was a side detour. It worked for me because it was a marriage between. I mean, I've been acting since I was a kid, so it was a marriage between acting and football, which is what I was doing up until the minute that I stepped into a wrestling ring. I was a football player. So there was the marriage of pro wrestling. It worked out perfectly there. So, you know, no matter what it is, I feel like, I mean, anytime that I ever, you know, worked in a 9-to-5 or a corporate gig that I had for a while, I was only doing it to support my wrestling habit. So, and anything that I do from here on out will have some kind of component to where I have a microphone in my hand, probably.
Just to follow up on Jay's point, I mean, yes, you should definitely be on film. Yes, you could have some physical roles as a heel in movies and everything else. Being just a short shuttle flight away from Vegas to LA, I mean, maybe right now, but have you thought about that? Like Jay said, if you get hurt or something else and you had a little bit of time, you know, to get more of a, you know, tough role in an action movie, I think would be a great fit for you.
I'm working on it.
I've
had some auditions. I had one that there's a movie being shot out here that I thought that I was going to surprise everybody with, but it did not happen. But you know,
There's always the next one.
The next one. If not the next one, then the next one.
There's got to be a plan B and C, Mike.
Yeah,
That's
man.
right.
Always. This is a crazy business, and I've been doing this for a long time. So
Since what 2002? When was Tough Enough, Nico?
Yeah,
Tough Enough,
2002, 2003.
Yeah.
that was I took my first bump in November of 2001.
So you've been wrestling for 20 years. You're clearly a seasoned veteran at this point. You're in Impact Wrestling. Is your goal, is your eye on the prize still the Impact World Championship? Because I see like Chick Donovan at 76 years old out there, giving people elbows, and I'm like, man, this guy's it's insane that he's able to perform at this age, because I'm 43 and I'm having trouble getting out of the bed and I got a 9-to-5er. You know what I mean? So like, what is your ultimate goal now that you're in Impact? Is it to teach the youngsters how to be great wrestlers, or is it still to become the Impact World Champion?
I feel like I can do all of those things. I think that's kind of the evolution of my career. I've been involved in training some of your favorite wrestlers, right? So, Chris Bay is one of my guys. I trained Jay. Jay Vidal was mostly trained by Gangrel, but he came to Vegas, and when he came to Vegas is kind of when I picked him up. So, so there's guys that I've had a hand in on Kevin Cross when he first started. So that's kind of how it evolved for me, where my part in the game became, how can I give back, and who can I help make better. While doing that, I kind of found myself getting better at the same time. So the goal is always to be the number one guy. It's always to prove not just to yourself, but to everybody else that I can still perform at a high level, that I can still entertain people at a high level. So that would be the goal. And there's more than one way to skin a cat, as far as being world champion. So I think maybe what you do is you just pick one championship and win that, and then you treat that like the world championship. And then who's to say that it's not real?
Sorry about the disrespect from the peanut gallery over here, using that word and talking
The S word.
talking
No
about
S
your
words.
opponent right now. I mean, this is just crazy. What are you gonna do to Joe Hendry when you get your
He's
hands
getting a
on that
beating.
guy?
I'm
What's
gonna beat
gonna
him up.
Yeah.
Beat him up. He disrespected me. You know what I mean?
He really did.
He deserves a beating.
Where did he even find those pictures? Those pictures shouldn't even be on the internet. You know what I mean? I'm retired. I hung my cuffs and collars up a long time ago. That's a portion of my life. That's great. But it's not. I don't even drive past the Rio anymore. That's how you know.
Clout chasing.
So now he's just cloud chasing. What he's doing is he saw that, Kenny King was on not one, not two, not three. I think it was three of the number one selling calendars in the world 3 years in a row. And Joe Hendry's never done nothing like that. So, he's want to try to pick and choose what he wants to highlight in his little stupid video. So, for every bar that he wrote, is a punch that he's going to get in the throat. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, we just going to have to trade it out like that, because he's not going to just do me like that and get away with it.
16 bars of ass whooping coming his way.
That's it.
I love it. How do you feel about the state of professional wrestling in 2023? Are you happy with what it has become? And obviously WWE is its own thing, but everything, AEW, Impact's thriving, the indie scene's thriving. We go to indie scenes here in Orlando, they have 200, 300 people at the shows. Like, it's doing great all across the world. How do you feel about it since 2001 November, when you took your first bump?
Well, I feel like it's back to where it was pre-pandemic. Like, people forget that, like, right before 2020 and around 2018, 2019, wrestling was hot. Indies were hot. Like, it was a really crazy situation where, no matter what, people were just trying to consume wrestling, whether it was WWE, whether it was Ring of Honor, Impact, New Japan, the indies. The indies were scorching hot, and then it kind of died down for a little bit. The pandemic, put the boots to a lot of it. But I think the individual products are kind of speaking for themselves, and that is why wrestling is so hot. What they're doing in WWE with the Bloodline is just it's captivating storytelling, and that's what makes pro wrestling. When you have good wrestling and great storylines, that's what makes grade A S tier wrestling. The amount of just insane matches that you see on AEW, the athleticism, the near death. I mean, but these guys are so good that that's just, you know, that's just part of the game, and that's just what they do. And Impact is really, you know, it's a slept on champ. Like, people really, anytime that I hear people say, what about anything like Impact? And the question is, have you watched it? No?
It's stacked right now.
And then when people watch it, it's like, oh, wait a minute. This is an absolute undiscovered gem right now. So the, you know, wrestling is really thriving, and I'm happy to see just a lot of my friends in great positions doing well, and thriving, because a couple of years ago everybody was like, what the hell are we going to do? So it's
Right.
you know, it's thanks, shout out to all the fans worldwide that that, you know, that keep us going with your obsession, because I mean, we love it, you guys love it, and it's a you know, it's a reciprocal relationship.
It's literally worldwide. You were just in Australia, which is basically the opposite of Florida as far as travel. I don't know how far that was. It 20 hours to travel there. I mean, and you guys packed the house in Impact Zone at the Australian Impact Zone. It's just amazing what you're able to do.
So it's literally, I mean, people all over the world are big on pro wrestling again. So, you know, that's just good, man. It's good for the business. The more companies that are putting on good shows, the more places the guys have to work, and that's just it's a really good thing.
I mean, that's what I was gonna say. As a wrestler, you got to see it as more of security. You know, if I want to leave WWE or Impact, I'm jumping to AEW, or, you know, I'm get emails from all over the place. So I feel like, right, Niko, now with TV and internet and things like that, it's broadcasting more, it's bringing more money in, and wrestlers now have so many options. You don't know where someone's gonna end up tomorrow. I love seeing it, man. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got
I
a
love
question.
Go ahead.
I got a question for you. You've been doing this for over 20 years now. What is what can the fans expect going forward? What's the body say? What's the mind say? And what's the family say? For what's next for Kenny? You know, how you feeling?
You know, I probably feel as good as I've ever felt. I feel right now that I'm as good as I've ever been as a professional wrestler. As a complete pro wrestler, I'm as good as I've ever been. My body feels almost as good as it's ever. I mean, there's no such thing as like going back in time, or you know, the amount of just damage that accumulated over the years is just what you live with. But as far as moving around with any injuries, this is as injury, knock on wood, right, as injury free as I've been. I feel fantastic. So I don't, you know, I can see the tail end. I've been doing this for a long time, and I don't want to be, nobody wants to be Randy the Ram, right? So I can see the tail end, but I don't, I'll never be somebody that retires and then unretires. So when I'm done, I'm done. So when I feel like I don't have anything left to give to pro wrestling, is when you'll see me hang it up. And I just don't quite see that quite yet. So
No, you got a lot left in the tank
A
still.
lot in the tank.
I see some gold in your future too.
oh yeah, immediate future. Joe Henry's gonna get beat the hell
Oh,
up
God.
real soon.
You're gonna look good with that belt, that's for sure. And he's gonna be all whiny. It's gonna be beautiful.
He's gonna make a song.
Like-
He's gonna make a song.
You're gonna make your own song.
No, he's gonna make a song. I should make
Oh,
a song, though.
You should make a song.
I should make a song.
I know you got skills too. Mike, do you have any questions for him? We're right at the 30-minute mark.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you
Yeah, I was
for
going to say,
joining
yeah,
us.
Joe Hendry's definitely going to be singing the blues. There's no doubt about it. But Impact is definitely the best kept secret in wrestling, really is kind of the third. They just need a better contract. Like you said, have people seen Impact? A lot of times people can't find Impact. So I think once they get a better contract, whenever that is, the exposure is just going to go up. But I was just going to ask you personally, can you take independent bookings in addition to Impact? Are you kind of tied in, or how do you work out a balance there?
I can take independent bookings, and I do. I take a lot of seminars and independent bookings, and I try to balance that too, because, you know, it's I do I am cognizant of the fact that, you know, I do have maybe a certain amount of matches left, right? Like, I don't have an unlimited amount of matches on my card like I did 10, 15 years ago. So I am selective, because it's I usually take them if it's a match that I want, if it's somebody that I want to try to, you know, make better, or match that I personally want. But I'm always down for seminars, and I do those a lot, because that just kind of gives me a way to kind of just kind of help and coach your local wrestler. So and as long as everybody's getting better, man, the game, you know, wrestling gets better when everybody gets better. When there was a period of time where almost anybody could just hop in the game and say they were a wrestler, and that kind of diluted the quality. But I think that's kind of over, and you're getting, I mean, just quality guys keep coming out of most of these areas.
It's a nice way to pay it forward.
Dancing with the Stars is next, Mike.
Man, that's a thing that almost happened, but it
Oh,
the thing that almost happened after Bachelor of Paradise.
Oh, really?
Bachelor.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I was just joking.
It would make sense.
when you hit that circuit, you become a valuable commodity. They want to get everything they can do. They want to squeeze you for everything. They're like, hey, come on, Bachelor in Paradise. Come on here. Come on there.
I loved Paradise. Paradise was.
I bet you did.
I feel like Paradise.
Single women getting drunk every night, hot as hell in bikinis. I wonder.
I feel like that's your reward for suffering through like the Bachelor, the Bachelorette, is that you get to go to Paradise. So yeah.
And then me and my wife were sitting here next to it watching us, and I'm like, this chick done made out with 4 dudes in the last 2 days. What a hoe. It's so funny. Crazy stuff. Kenny.
America loves it.
Quick question. Who's your favorite New York rapper? Dead or alive, past or present?
I gotta say Nas. I mean, I had Biggie's on my wall, and it was in my brain. It was between Biggie, Nas, or Jay, but I gotta go Nas.
Biggie don't die at 26 or 27. It's another story, you know. Same with Tupac. If Tupac and them are still, oh my gosh, the music that would have been spewed out would have been insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I like Jadakiss.
Oh, see, I'm a big Jada. Jada's my number 4.
Jason Phillips. I just feel like he changed the game a little bit in the 2000s, and you know, I just feel like he's just still been hard and pound for pound, and you know, that's one of my that's my favorite.
Jada is 100% top 5 dead or alive for sure.
Yeah,
love it. Kenny, thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate this. This was a wonderful, enlightening interview with you. We're going to be doing a lot more with Impact, so we hope to have you on in the future. We have several other Impact wrestlers also joining us. Thank you so much. Where can everyone find you on social media?
You can find me at all my socials at Kenny King PB2. That's Twitter and Instagram. Oh, so watch out. You know, you can sit on my lap and you want to.
Right.
And then my TikTok is the official Kenny King. So it's Kenny King PB2 Instagram and Twitter, and the official Kenny King on TikTok.
I'll reach out to you on Instagram, and we'll talk about doing this again on TikTok exclusively, because we all have TikToks as well, and I got a bunch. We all got more followers over there. So
yeah. Cop that new shirt, by the way, that new Kenny King Impact.
Kenny King Impact.
Impact.com.
I love it. I can't wait for you to get some gold and beat up that clown who's been making fun of you. Thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate it. Everyone else, have a great night. We are Niko Knows Best. Thank you, Kenny.
Peace out, fellas.